Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Spotter. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, my best friend, Luke Manley. Luke, welcome to the
Hello.
podcast. It's been a long time coming. Obviously, when I started this, I did think to myself straight away, like, how long will it take until I manage to swindle you to come on and do an episode? Thank you very much for accepting payment.
We'll discuss that at the end, mate, depending on how much I big you up, yeah?
Okay, yeah, extra 50 quid at the end, yeah. So obviously you know the gist of the podcast and what I'm trying to do. And with building these conversations up over time, I'm hoping that we can start to really delve deep into topics that people don't really talk about enough. And especially coming from a bloke, a man in today's society, I think it's quite important that we have these conversations. And yeah, even as best friends, like it's nice to take the style of conversation that you and me have, you know, in a normal day to day, and bring it onto these platforms to show people, actually what we delve into, the things that have gone on in your life, maybe the things that have gone on in my life as well that I've spoken about, and how we've supported each other through those times. Because life is messy, it really is, and there is no one path. You know, that whole butterfly effect is real, and you can go off in all different directions. So sometimes it's nice to just really bring it back to a simple conversation between friends and just talk. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and entertaining the conversation, because who knows where it can go. No limits, you said, hey?
I think that's what worries me, to be honest. The fact it's uncut, no limits. Where will it go? But no, I'm excited, mate. I think I'm very blessed in the sense of our friendship. How long have I known you now? 4.5 years?
Yeah, we met in 2021, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember it vividly. You were on the leg extension. We hadn't spoken a single word to each other. We were right next to each other at the gym. And I think I just spotted you for the last 2-3 reps, didn't I? And then that just
just let yourself come over and thought, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to invade this man's personal space, not knowing a single thing about him. Come on, 5 more. And the rest is history, mate. I think it's just little moments like that. And I know this might get very intense very quickly now, but instantly with us, I knew you were a good egg. I knew you were one of the most amazing eggs as well, just from the energy. We might get into this deeper into the podcast about energy and, you know, how I kind of assess the energy and vibes of people as well. Yeah. But instantly there was just such a warmthness to you. And and we might get into it again about the level of conversations we had super quick into our friendship. But yeah, instantly, mate, it was just, I knew this was going to be something special.
Yeah, because you joined the gym, I think, that was quite new. It was new to you, wasn't it? You were new to the environment at that point. I don't know if it was around April, May sort of time, but I remember it was when I think the gym joint was still in one room. Yeah. It was prior to the expansion. And yeah, it was the single leg extension. You were in the squat rack, and yeah, you spotted me, and I was like, yeah, how dare he? But I love it. Yeah. But yeah, so instantly got more out of me. And then I think, yeah, we just gelled pretty much straight away. And then it started, obviously, the conversations we had straight away. I left the gym that day being like, wow, here's the start of something special. Like, I already know this about him, so God knows where it's going to go now. But yeah, I echo the same thing, mate. I knew straight away that I feel like I'm pretty good with assessing my interactions with people and whether or not it's genuine. And I knew leaving that, I was like, oh, what a genuine guy. And I was looking I think I found out that you were a member, not just a day pass. And I was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him again. And this is where you had a lot less hair as well. You've gone through a transformation with your looks as well.
Yes, we have the man bun now. Before I was slick Rick, hair slicked back, and
Ice Gem.
Not proud of those eras, but you know, it shapes you, right? You've got to appreciate some of the darker moments.
I think even I at that point had hair going up. I think I was revealing my massive forehead at that point. We won't do that on the podcast. That's not something to frighten people with. But
that's just for me and you, mate. The exclusivity of our friendship.
Exactly. But no, it was a special encounter straight away, and yeah, the rest is history. But I mean, over our time together, you always used to make these jokes of soon you'll be able to open up to me. Soon you'll be able to open, because obviously, we've spoken a lot, and because you've been through a lot, as a friend that supported you, and I haven't known you the longest out of your friends and your even your flatmates and people like that you've been around all the time. But we did hit it off straight away, and it just progressed. So I felt comfortable in asking you lots of questions, because I felt like you needed that space to talk, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So I realized early on that this was going to be quite a different relationship to anyone that I had prior, which was good, because again, I didn't really have many outlets to talk when I was struggling back in the day, and I wish I had. Of course, like, caveat to that, I did have very good friends and best friends for that matter, but I'm just saying, adding you into the mix provided something different, and we've only grown since. It's just got stronger and stronger as I think we've really evolved as individuals, haven't we? We both had these almost like preset visions of how life should be because of external factors and individuals almost telling us and influencing us about how we should live life, or just because of how the world's set up in general. But we've really gone, me and Abby and yourself as well, we've all gone quite different ways now, haven't we? So do you just want to talk to us a bit about your background? Because obviously I met you in the gym. You are into health and fitness as well. You've done sort of like a bit of a boomerang when it comes to, or like, back and forth between different styles of training, which again, you've got to try things before you commit. But give us a bit about your background, what you do, what you've been through in life a little bit, where you've got to at this point in your life as well, and sort of what you're seeking in the next chapter.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest, things, if people were to be like, describe Luke, what does he stand for? I think, as we've already touched on, health and fitness is a big thing. That's always given me, I think, a lot of purpose, something to always consistently work towards as well. And I know you've touched on it in previous podcasts as well. Sometimes when you feel a certain way, i.e. sad, grief, anything like that, but you don't necessarily know how to process it in those moments, health and fitness has always been, I guess, an anchor for me. Yeah. If I've not known how to properly talk about my emotions, feelings, the gym has always been a great answer to that, because sometimes, yes, I suppress my feelings by sticking on incredibly loud music, just listening to brain rock, and just pumping some iron. But I think over time, I have slowly identified what a lot more of my purpose is. So yeah, a little bit of background. I've always been very heavy in the travel industry. So my professional career has always been in IT since I was 18, come out of college straight into an IT apprenticeship with British Airways, stayed with them for 7 years. An opportunity arose for me to branch elsewhere, doing a similar role in IT. But that was within within finance, insurance. And I love that, and it helped me grow professionally in many, many ways. But what I also realized is I wasn't necessarily supporting the things that I had a big passion about, which was travel, and kind of swung back around. And just over a year ago now, so June 2024, I came back and I joined TUI. Now, so whilst I'm not necessarily on the front line in terms of travel, my job always has been within the travel industry from an IT perspective, making sure customers can book their holidays, get on the aircraft safely and get to their destination safely. So that's always been a big passion of mine, just exploring, traveling. And now I think, as you know, over the last couple of years, I've been doing that more literally myself. A lot of solo travels, a lot of traveling with close friends that are similarly aligned. And I guess I'm constantly in the journey of just, I don't want to sound too corny now, because a lot of people say when they go traveling to find themselves.
I knew you were going to get to that.
But I truly am, with each time I go away. Running theme for anybody that follows me on social media, you will see that my big love is mountains, lakes, and nature. and I feel most at peace there. So a lot of my traveling is mainly revolving around just being surrounded by nature. But it's interesting, actually. One of our mutual friends from the gym joined, Tom Paul. Am I allowed to say names on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, am I allowed to refer to people?
He's actually an avid listener, so shout out to Tom.
Oh, shout out to Tom. Tom wrote a poem himself. Tom's also a big traveller. He's a big inspiration of mine. And he wrote a poem himself a couple of weeks ago. And one of the main things that stuck with me was he was asking himself whether he's running away or whether he's running towards. And the way I perceive that to be is a lot of people that have spoken to me anyway is when they often assume people that go traveling are running away from all of their problems. And I actually firmly believe that what I'm currently trying to do is run towards what is more aligned with me and the environment I want to be in and the kind of people I want to surround myself with. And I wouldn't even say it's running, to be fair, because I think running gives a sense of desperation.
It implies that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm steadily walking. I'm doing a Jake sprint in your 100 kilograms.
Let me make a little interjection here, okay? Just because I'm 100 kilos doesn't mean I can't move fast. It's very much true, but it doesn't mean it. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, carry on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think genuinely it definitely builds character. Solo traveling for sure, but the thing that's always remained a constant in my life is the gym for sure, and training. And as you alluded to, I have gone through different journeys with the gym. So as most men do when they're younger, they always want to train because they want to get, validation, attention from the opposite sex or the same sex, and over time that then evolved to, I think, a coping mechanism for a lot of things that are going on in my life. And that's just remained a constant. But then I also recognized that when I got surrounded within the gym joint environment, there are a lot of bodybuilding competitors like yourself and others. And it made me quickly realize that whilst I completely appreciate what you guys do, I don't think I will ever want to be at that level in terms of stepping on stage. Completely admire what you guys do, but that would never be for me. And I think also growing up, I was never in any kind of competitive sports environment. I was never part of any sports teams or anything like that. My dad always picked me up that I was a really amazing goalkeeper when in actual fact I was completely horrific. But thank you, Dad, for being the only supporter back then. Yeah. So yeah, I think I would say about 2 years ago now, actually. Yeah, 2 years ago, I was first exposed to functional fitness, not actually doing it. I was spectating a competition up north. And I thought, this looks bloody fun, really, really good. But the biggest thing for me was, if I immerse myself in this environment, am I going to lose my size and shape? Which I know is not necessarily the healthiest way to look at it. But anyway, overcome that question mark, if you like, and just fully threw myself into the deep end.
Yeah.
One of my close friends actually signed us up for a doubles competition, and I had no choice, but I had 4 months to basically get in incredible shape and actually learn what functional fitness was all about.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. 4 months later, we competed together and we came second, which out of 2 teams, which is really good. No, I'm joking. So that was great. And I thought, you know what, the whole process of this, the journey of learning something new, the journey of actually having to show up for somebody else in a competitive environment as well, I thought this is me now. This really is me. And I've had some hiccups along the way in terms of, do I really want to push far from a functional fitness, CrossFit kind of element? But I think I'm striking a good balance right now in terms of balancing bodybuilding and also balancing functional fitness.
Yeah, I'd say. I think that, you've given a great overview there of, again, career, what you started with and where you are now, and the realization of actually, because you were with British Airways, and I guess that gave you a lot of opportunities which you enjoyed. So making that transition to finance it probably exposed that I'm missing something. So they're coming back towards that area with TUI again. Again, I know that you've been, very well, you've moved a lot, let's just say, in the last year, which is great because I think you've gained a lot more clarity in terms of potentially where you want to be. And it doesn't have to be permanently, but for the next part of your life, chapters, if you want to look at it in that way, because you don't have to commit to one location, i.e. Jake and Abby in Dorset.
Or Greece.
Or Greece, yeah. We go back. There's a running joke, basically, where Luke likes to point out that me and Abby seem to have, on cycle, one year it's going to Dorset 4 or 5 times, and the year after, let's go to Greece again for the 6th time. We do like to go to different places, but we also are fiends for comfort as well.
Hey, look, we make this joke, and I think this can go deeper than just the holiday perspective, but you two know what you love, and you love what you know, and that's a really good thing. And I think the contrast between me and you right now, in terms of, I am still on a journey of trying to discover a lot of things, and I know you are as well.
Yeah.
But there are also so many things in life that you are so solidified on. That is your purpose. That is what you are here to do. And I think that's really, really nice. But then, of course, that comes with me teasing you every now and again, thinking, yeah, next year we'll change it up. We'll go Greece. The year after, make a change. We'll go Dorset.
It is, you make a good point, because I sometimes draw on it negatively, but we shouldn't really, because it's, I'm very solid in my relationship, with my passions, this, especially realizing how many times have I said to you as well, I want to start a podcast, I want to do it, this, that, and the other. And you've been like, oh, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And I think that's, again, the biggest issue. I wouldn't even call it an issue, but the thing I'm getting better with is my overthinking and anxiety in life as well. I'm an overthinker. I worry too much, but I think that I've done things with you that have helped me go out of my comfort zone, that have led me again to doing things like this. And again, I'm stepping more into different zones that I don't feel comfortable with. But then in turn, it's making me feel more comfortable, which is great. So, I'm on a personal journey as well, but it's been great seeing, over, because I've seen you go through a lot of difficulties, and it's been, heartbreaking to, be a best friend, to witness some of them as well. But it's also been a blessing in many ways, which you can only see after a certain point, after the events occur. And I think you've grown so much in the last year, and you made a point of, I think we both have. I think 2024 for the two of us was a big growth year. I think there was a lot of realizations, a lot of things that were solidified in the way that we thought, and we've stuck to that now. I think no one's perfect, and we're still learning, we're still growing. But realistically, do you ever fully know everything in life, everything you want to do, everything you think you should be, the people you should hang around with, the people you should give your time to, who you should love? I don't think we ever truly know that. And I think people just learn at different rates. But you've been through a fair whack of it. I think with your fitness journey, it actually was one of those things where, because you went through a big transformation when you were coached, you got down to, when you were in the bodybuilding era of your life, you hit some size, and you've always had a good shape to you, a very big chest, very broad, but I think you even alluded to this, you got to a point where you were like, I think that was the best I've looked, but subjective to that type of sport, because now I bet you'd say you like the way you look now as a functional athlete, because also you look great, and in many people's eyes, and yourself, but you can also function well as well. With what you're doing, you're able to move, you're able to train in a different way to myself, very rigid and just a lump really, but I like being a lump. Okay, leave me alone. But again, this is where we're talking about the things we like, the things that bring us joy. For me, bodybuilding was my escape, and it turned into, well, my biggest passion. And I'm grateful that I had to go through tough times to find this, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have dedicated so much time to it. And I'm not going to stand here and say, I always knew I wanted to be an IFBB pro, or I wanted to be a natural bodybuilder, because I didn't. There was one time where I thought I'd be a pro footballer. I was very wrong, because I was crap at football, and I never went into any of the teams. And then I said to myself, I wanted to be specifically a Metropolitan Police officer. And again, I don't know where that came from. So there's so many weird journeys you go on. But yeah, I found through tough times, bodybuilding was my escape, and it's turned into my passion. And with you, health and fitness, as we know, has been a big part of your life, especially throughout difficult times as well. And, leading on to sort of another question is, have you ever used it as a coping mechanism? Because I met you where in your life at the time, in 2021, you were going through some pretty big relationship changes, or struggles, should we say, at the time. If you don't mind me saying, you were with a long-term partner at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, well, at the time when we first met, you were probably looking at around 4.5 years that I was with this partner. And yeah, there were certainly some struggles there, for sure. But obviously, for me anyway, when you're with a long-term partner, there's always okay, how can we get through things together? But there was I didn't really have an outlet to talk to anybody, or let me reframe that. I had an outlet to talk to people outside of my partner, just to help with any anxieties or feel heard, listened to. But there was no one that I actually truly felt I could vent to safely or speak to safely. And I guess I never really felt understood when I was trying to voice certain thoughts and feelings about my struggles with that relationship. Insert you.
This big lump comes into your life. Yeah.
Yeah, there was, I think for me, I struggled with a lot of things with that relationship, I think, over time. So my ex-partner and I, we got together when we were 20, 21.
Young, yeah.
Yeah. And arguably, there are some couples that have gotten together younger and survived the period where I think a lot of change happens. I certainly changed as a person between the ages of, 21 to now. I'd say I'm still changing, but 20 to 25, a lot of change happened. I felt like towards the end, I lacked a little bit of purpose. I felt a little bit lost across most areas of my life. And I didn't really know how to process that at the time. Like I said, I never really had an outlet where I felt like I could communicate to somebody safely. So in the end, that starts to come full circle, and then that spirals into the relationship. And then you start to, I guess, associate how you're feeling internally with maybe your partner. And disclaimer, not to, I don't want to talk badly about anyone or go too deep into detail, but I truly believe that the issues I had were solely based on me, and I was projecting that onto my partner. So it was a me issue, I was going through a lot of change, and towards the end, I didn't know how to handle it. And yeah, it affected the relationship quite a lot.
I think that you made a good point. When you're going through difficulties personally, or you're trying to figure out things, if you're with somebody, they tend to get the brunt, I suppose, of that, because they are your closest person at that point in time. Therefore, naturally, things just offload to each other. And again, that can probably create tension. And also on the other side, unknown tension, like, why is this occurring? What's, maybe to your partner at the time, they're thinking, we're fine, we're on course to set up this life that I want. Importantly, note what I said, they're like life that they want. Maybe at a point in time that, as you grow from such a young age, you think you want to be a certain way or do certain things. I can imagine I know this myself, but again, you made a point about people that have got through that. Me and Abby have been together for over 6 years now. So I'm 27. So we've got years of, that legwork, and we've both grown. And me and Abby, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, like, we had a split. It was a mere week, but we split. And so technically we haven't been together for 6 years, actually. I need to correct myself. But we had a week's break because there was some things going on Abby's side, which made her question how she felt towards me. And that's not an issue. Like, I've questioned things in the past. I don't think you should be ashamed to say things like that, because we're human. We think things. Our heads are sometimes messed up, sometimes not. We sometimes feel a certain way, and it just projects onto the closest person to you. But thankfully, that was a blip. It wasn't anything that maintained, and we both realised that we wanted to be together, and we've only felt a certain way towards each other. So maybe with what you were saying, you were going through so much change personally, and in your head, you didn't have an outlet as much as you wanted, and it just projected onto your partner at the time, and you grew apart. And that can happen, mate. It's not I think after I'd met you, I think it literally took us a few weeks, and then we ended up going on a really long walk on like a Saturday. At the time, you were in a different property, and I remember we went for it. It must have been like a 1.5, 2 hour walk, and that's where you were like, this is my agony aunt. I've needed this for years. And I'm there like, please tell me your issues. Yeah. And I think, again, the running joke's been, hopefully one day, Jake, you'll have some issues we can talk about. I do have issues. I'm not a robot. Thing. No, I'm not a robot. Trust, I've got issues.
The man's perfect.
Yes. But that was a really important turning point, I think, for us. Not that it wasn't going to progress anyway, but early on, having a real deep dive into you being like, I need to talk to someone about what's going on in my life. And I think it helped me as well, because it actually made me realize even more. I like being a listener. I like helping people. I like talking, like, as we know, 3-hour gym sessions every night. But
at least,
yeah, I felt an immense sense of like pleasure knowing that I'd given you a comfortable space to open up. And I know you found it helpful as well, because it just started our journey of frequent walks and 3 lots of 5-minute voice notes when we couldn't walk with each other.
I think the biggest thing that helped me and I think I can say this now because I know this now, but the partner I was with at the time, I know that she is super happy now with the life she has, and she's moved on. And I always think that life should be appreciated in all of its colours, in terms of you've got the potential darker parts of life, but then you have obviously the more brighter parts of it. And I think I can say this now, knowing that she is very happy in life, that the blessing that came out of the struggles I had in that relationship was that helped form and solidify our friendship in terms of, trauma dumping. But it really helped because, like I said, I didn't feel previously that I'd had anybody that I could feel safe enough or to speak to, or at least feel understood and feel heard. Yeah. And I found that with you. So, there is, whilst obviously no breakup, I think, is ever a happy experience for the most part. The best thing that came out of it was the fact that we met, I guess, through me struggling, and that helped us grow and blossom, because then it made me realize, you know what, it's not a case of, it's more of a case of I just needed to find the right people to speak to, because I think historically I've had a lot of emotions dismissed, a lot of thoughts and feelings kind of played down in terms of mental health and me feeling sad, and there was just such a warmth to you, mate, and I just felt so safe whenever I was speaking to you. And I don't have many friends like that now, because I'm very selective with who I open up to. But as you know, I have you, and I have a select few other people as well in my life that I will talk to anything and everything about, because I know I can.
Yeah.
And I can feel validated about it. So there's always lessons to be learnt with every situation. And for me, this has just helped me kick on now in terms of knowing who I can speak safely to. And because I know a running theme with what you say about this podcast is, everybody should talk and everybody should talk about their thoughts and feelings. I would caveat that to say that you should talk about your thoughts and feelings with those closest to you and those that you trust.
Completely
because
agree.
A lot of people, for lack of a better term, will overshare with the wrong kind of people. And sometimes those people that don't have an aligned interest with you, or they don't want the best things for you, that's when rumors are spread, that's when gossip happens, or sometimes it's used against you. So I would just say that, have those select few people, or lots of people, if you feel truly safe enough to do so, to trust wholeheartedly, to discuss absolutely everything and anything with.
You make a really good point there, because there's two things I wanted to touch on. You talk about finding people. Would you say you found, this will go on to another point that you just said at the end there, but would you say you found your people now in life? Do you think that you've got your core trustees, trusted people in your life that you can count on, or do you still think you're finding?
Currently, yes. And it's no disrespect to the people that are in my life at the moment, but I think it's just a forever evolving thing, in the sense of the person I was 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, had different people that I counted on because I was aligned with those people in terms of interests, behaviors, habits, that kind of stuff. But life always moves on. You're always changing, you're always evolving. And I mean, it's difficult to say, because the people I have found right now, I want to keep as close to me for as long as possible. And it's almost because we've spoken about it countless times. No matter where we go in the world, in the UK, whatever, if we are not physically close to each other, we know that this friendship will never break. And this is where, a meme's generated 10 years down the line, where people listen back to this podcast, you're super famous, and they're like, so what happened with your friendship? No, I don't want to talk about it.
Luke who?
I hate him. Currently aligned with how I feel right now. And I think I've definitely found my people.
Good.
For sure. And I say that because I think I'm on a path similarly to you and all the other close people in my life as well. So I kind of feel like we are all progressing together. And even if sometimes we deviate in different ways in terms of physical location and stuff like that, psychologically and where our values lie, they're all similar, and we all want the best for each other. So, yeah, I do.
But that's good to hear for now as well, because as long as I'm in the picture at the minute, that means I can still keep working towards staying in the picture. Okay. As long as I keep providing you a safe space. Yeah. No, I agree. I similar to you about, you mentioned the oversharing like that. I was like, oh, is he targeting me right now? The oversharer. Yeah. No. Like, typically a big people pleaser over here, and it's well known. Like, I definitely overshare and have done. I think potentially to people in the past that, for right or for wrong, don't really care as much about that. And it's, my things that are going on in my life, which isn't a problem. Like, it's not a case that everyone has to care about what you're doing, but I think what it does is it shows the true people that are meant to be in your life for different reasons. I think that's an important way in which you can describe it. But I agree. I think that with the nature of the podcast, providing safe spaces among our friends and family, people that are meant to talk to each other we should be encouraging good conversation to allow us to open up. But agreed, it shouldn't be with people that won't value that conversation or don't actually want to have that conversation, or it's for, other reasons. But yeah, there's definitely something I think in 2024, and we'll talk about how we've grown, but I think that's what I've realized in the last year and a half, especially, that I am on my own path. Me and Abby we're on a joint path. We've got different ventures, of course, solo, but we support each other on those. But we are on a joint path. We're in unison with each other, and it doesn't align with a lot of people, and that's fine. And we accept that. If other people choose not to, that's on them. It's not on us. It's not up to us to try and bring people with us that aren't meant to come, if that makes sense, or to get people to understand everything that's going on in our lives, because that's not, why should we? And I think similar with you, you've gone on a massive journey over the last, physically as well, like to many different places, but you've gone on a big journey over the last year and a half. And I'd actually say there was a lot of big changes in 2023 with you. To be fair, that was, I think, a turning point which made you sort of question everything. And I we can delve into that as much as or as little as you like, but I think that again made you realize that maybe you're not necessarily ready for certain things in life, or maybe you're not wanting to entertain certain things in life, which is fine. But you had your long-term relationship, which 2021 came to its end. And then again, had some time to yourself, training. We grew as friends massively. Spent a lot of time with each other. Obviously more time now, but we live very close to each other, so it makes sense. But you sort of hit, coming around to sort of end of 2022, going into 2023, another big shift happened in your life. You're at that point, you ended up getting into a different relationship. And at the time, and I don't like to bring this up really, because I know how much this period affected you, but I think it's important to touch on, because without it, I don't think you would be the person you are sat in front of me today. No. So I think these events are key. I've had them. With me, I've had very limited. With the relationships I have had, they have either, especially with people and instances in my life, I've led very much a solo life up until me and Abby got together, and I'm grateful that turned into something that I haven't had to look back on, if that makes sense, and think, that happened, this happened. Like, thankfully, we're in a good spot. It's hopefully meant to be. We keep nurturing this situation. But with you, you had your long-term relationship, came out, had some time on your own, you grew, you learned a bit more about yourself, nurturing relationships, and then you ended up, being struck by someone again that you thought, this is special. This is me. So do you mind touching on that a little bit? Because that was a big turning point in your life, wasn't it?
It was, mate. Yeah. So I'll take you a little bit further back in the journey before I met my now ex-partner. So after I split with my long-term relationship, my girlfriend of 5+ years, for reasons I've already given, I think there was quite a dark turning point in that situation, because I think that was all I'd really known for the last 5 years or whatever. That really rocked me when I felt when we split. And there were a few other things going on in my life at the time as well. And I think I genuinely explored options to end things and unalive myself. And I'll use unalive because I know certain social media things don't like the other word. And for me, that was the final straw in terms of I cannot continue to go through life like this, because you have to hold on to all of the positive moments. And that was the final straw that forced me to go to therapy for the first time. And that was one of the best decisions I'd ever made, because I think that really taught me how to talk openly and be more in touch with my emotions, understand triggers, past traumas a lot better, things that potentially happened in my childhood, all of this sort of stuff. And I think that combined with our friendship during that time of difficulty as well, you helped teach me and enabled me to sort of talk more in an everyday sense. You know, my therapist at the time, it was like once a week, and it was more exercise-based stuff and more intentional things. But with me and you, it was more, let's talk every day about everything and anything, and nothing is off the cards.
Yep.
Anyway, long story short, that was amazing. Had that for 6 months. As you said, the back end of 2022, so the summer of 2022, I felt like I was in my best shape psychologically, physically, everything. I just dedicated, you know, people always say you're always going to glow up after a breakup and stuff, and I felt like I truly did. Processed a lot of things, or what I believe to have processed. And then, yes, to get on to my now ex-partner, that came out of nowhere, in the sense that I remember I was in the gym and she walked into the gym on a guest pass, and I just immediately thought, she showed up soft, incredibly beautiful, and out of nowhere. And I really thought, I just had this feeling that this is a girl that I want to be with. Never spoken to her before. I just had that feeling. You know, she walked in, and anyway, through that week, we had a couple of conversations, and I'd done something I'd never done before at the end of that week. And knowing that she wasn't going to be there after that week, I thought I have to do something, and I have to ask for her number. And I did, and I was successful. And I remember going home that day, giddy as anything, like a little girl screaming in my car. And I was like, this is meant to be. This is some form of higher power that is sending me all these signs that you've put the work in over the last 6 months. You've really processed a lot of things. You should be proud of yourself. Here, this is your reward. Now, in hindsight, I think what we know, or what I believe, is that relationship was sent to me to almost wreck my illusion on what I had about life and myself.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much detail about the finer details. We can always touch on that on another time. But
of course,
long story short, there was a long-term case of infidelity that happened over a number of occasions. And there were things that happened throughout that relationship as well that I think stripped me down and led to a loss of identity and purpose within myself. And the heartbreak that came with it was initially a massive tragedy. Like, you know, I'd had everything I thought about life, my purpose, the person I was with that I truly loved, swept from underneath my feet. And thankfully, I now see it as a blessing that I didn't necessarily ask for, but I think I needed, because I was allowing myself to be shaped by that person and by that relationship that, now thinking about it, wasn't truly aligned with my values and what I wanted out of life. But I gave everything to somebody that wasn't necessarily ready to accept that level of love that I was able to give. And it was hard. Like,
I'll say, yeah. No, I'm just agreeing with you, but I just wanted to say, like, I remember you talk about the heartbreak. I remember the day I literally could go through the exact events, probably for a time basis. I was at work, obviously got the phone call from you when you found out what you did find out, and I was angry, like, for you, obviously, because no offense, I only care about you, and I was fuming. I felt like I was sharing in that heartbreak for you, because I knew how much this individual had, well, given you in the sense of hope for a future, hope for something different, you know, that you potentially didn't have in your last relationship. You know, at that time it was correct, but for this time in your life, you thought this was the correct endeavor. And I was heartbroken for you because it was for everything you'd put into the relationship, the genuine person I know, and I just know how you are as a person. And I thought, what a lucky girl to get that in a relationship from a partner. And anyone would have been lucky to have had you at that time. So for that time, I was like, lucky. But I was fuming. I remember on the day, I felt like I couldn't concentrate at work. I think I came down from my desk and I was just downstairs for half an hour with you in the office room. And I booked it out because I was like, I needed to dedicate some time to you, just see. And I had to stay down there for a bit before I went up. I was like, I cannot go back to my desk. I can't concentrate at the minute. And yeah, that day unfolded. And obviously, again, sort of unfolded over a matter of a couple of weeks as well. And yeah, it was a weird period, mate, because you see your best friend, fully dedicate to somebody. And, obviously I did question logistics at certain points, the fact that the long distance, in that sense, the traveling and aspects like that, but you made it work. And
I was always going to make it work.
I know.
So for context, for people listening, I live in Maidenhead with Jake, and my partner was up in Manchester. So 3.5-4 hour drive. You realise you're going to get so many people coming to your door now. So I just give the address of where you live. We can get all the people to come meet us. Yeah. But yeah, I was always going to make it work because I felt at that point I had found my purpose, and that was her. And I poured everything and anything that I could into that. But I think a big lesson to learn out, to come out of this was you can give everything to somebody. You can give a level of love, like to the depth that you've never given before or that they have ever received. But if you are not ready to receive that level of love because you have, I don't want to say issues or problems, but if you have unresolved things of your own, then it's almost impossible. Because they are always going to be comparing what you can give to how they feel about themselves, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was difficult, mate. It was difficult. I think I was always maybe just in love with the idea that we was actually in love with each other when the reality was very different. But again, to flip this into something more positive, what I will say is you were such a rock and anchor throughout that breakup. A big level of support. And everything I felt was always just validated and supported. And again, the theme of this and the theme of our friendship is, God, Luke's got another problem. But the fact that you are always able to take those problems on for me, kind of thing, if that makes sense. I can just talk to you unfiltered about everything and anything, and you are just always there to just validate my feelings and even to some extent challenge things as well. You always, we might get into this in this podcast, but me and you, I think, whilst we're so similar in so many ways, also think quite differently about certain things. So what I've always appreciated is when I've come to you with shock, another problem, you've not been in Luke's camp. You've almost been able to play devil's advocate and think, well, how have you thought about it this way? And that's always helped me process things as well, because sometimes I do get stuck in my own head, and to almost have somebody help you look at things from a different angle, I think really helps.
Yeah. Again, and it's never the case that I've wanted to side on the other, but it's more, I just pose different viewpoints, don't I? And because I think it's healthy to evaluate situations. I think it's always good to look at both sides, or all sides. And yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, that sense of me being a rock, but equally I'd say you have been the same for me. Whilst maybe I don't churn out lots of problems and conflict that I need to talk about, I do have things going on. Like I have constant battles with anxiety, overthinking, questioning my role in life or the people that should be in my life. And you've always been there to support me in I'd call the transition phase of my life across the last 2 years. And, I'm in a more secure point in my life because of you. And, you've seen a lot of change in me, which you've championed. You've said it's this is great to see. This is the Jake that you were meant to always be. It's just taken you a certain period of time to get here, and which is, again, it takes as long as it needs to take. Things take as long as they need to take. There is no it must take 5 years. It takes as long as it needs to. So, but yeah, I think that as a friend and someone supporting you at the time, it was extremely difficult to see you go through. Obviously, I didn't have, I suppose, the benefit or the view of having seen you and your first long-term partner together for so many years. I just saw the end of that and dealt with that in the only way I could, which was providing support. With, the next big chapter in your life, I was, I think, able to provide viewpoints, potential solutions, ideas. I was able to do more for you because I knew of the context. I was there and I saw it, blossom, hit its high points, and then sadly, come to its end. But all for a better time. I think it changed you in a good way. It did. At the start of the aftermath, I think, as you only see the negatives and you think, well, that's horrendous. What am I to do next? What do I pour myself into? But you didn't let it stop you for too long. You managed to, I'd say you've been on I'd actually say since post that period, you've been on a learning journey since then. And I think that there's certain things in your life now that you are solid on, you really truly believe in, but you're still exploring different things in your life. You still, I think back to, I even as an observational point of view, I think you still look back on that period and question things. I think you still try and come to terms with certain aspects because you're always going to. But I think as a person, you are, from my point of view, you seem a lot more solid in your way of thinking, how you see life, what you potentially want out of life and what you want to explore, which is great to see. I'm truly excited for whoever comes into your life, at whatever point in time. I think that they will have that, you'll have, it will be the most special thing that it's meant to be. We just don't know when that's going to be, and that's fine. And I think another theme there is, we were talking early on about you traveling so much. Like you're looking at life in different ways now. Historically, I can imagine, similar for me, thinking of, got to grow up, stay in a job, have children, marry. That's it. That's life. Be done with it. Be happy, because that's how life's supposed to be for everyone.
Happy is subjective, right?
100%. Yeah. So, I was going to say, what is your? No, it's fine. Honestly, just another. I'm actually doing quite well. For everyone listening, I have a compulsive need to interrupt people. Not everyone, but in my head, I feel like I know where a conversation's going. So I'm like, I may as well finish the sentence for you and let me carry on. But I'm getting better at it. I think I've done well so far, Luke. But
not bad.
No,
not bad.
Better than our normal conversations, only because other people are listening. What is your happy now? Because you're on this journey. You are looking for different locations to travel to experience different ways of life, meet new people, be with nature. And thankfully, you're in a career that allows you to do so, which is fantastic. Now, what does happy look like for Luke? What is that? Try and explain to us what that might be for you, either now or in 5-10 years' time. Do you think it's going to change?
It may well do. But for the now, I think for me, it's definitely living life purposefully, living it intentionally rather than reactively, rather than waiting for things to happen. As you said, I think over the last year and a half since, that all happened with my ex-partner, I think I've definitely been on a journey of kind of understanding what my purpose is, and what I want to get out of life. And rather than waiting for life to happen to me to some extent, because, I know that can happen, as that happened at the start of 2023, thinking you've got everything figured out and then bam, life is thrusted onto you. But for the most part, living it as close to what I believe my purpose is, as close as I can. I think discipline and consistency. So, with training, nutrition, professionally, just making sure that what I want to work towards, I'm consistent with it. And just enjoying life, making sure that I'm always growing from all aspects. So emotionally, spiritually, with relationships, with the right relationships with the right people, but just enjoying life as well. And I think just making sure that you can do all of those things to the highest quality for as long as I possibly can. So a lot of that, is being surrounded by mountains, lakes, the sea. I want to be able to enjoy movement for as long as I can, because some of the hikes that I do are not the easiest of things. And I've gotten myself into a couple of sticky situations, and I've been on some solo hikes, but that can be a story for another time. But being able to be physically fit in order to help facilitate my movement and the way I want to travel and see the world, because I truly believe that there is so much diversity in this world and beauty in this world that needs to be seen. That's how I feel. Not everybody is aligned with that. Some people are, they don't feel that need to want to see as much of the world as they possibly can. But right now I do. That is what my version of happiness looks like. And yes, I am very lucky that my job helps enable and facilitate that as best as it can. I'm in a very, very, very fortunate part of my life right now where I can do a lot of things. So yeah, but that may change. Sometimes things in life unexpectedly can change. But yeah, for the here and now, that's my happy.
That's good to hear, mate. It is, because I know we know a lot about each other in terms of, where we think we want to go in life and what we want to do. But it's nice to hear it out loud again and you be comfortable in what you're saying, and actually confident in saying that out loud. I think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Like on my part, me and Abs have been through a bit of a journey over the last few years where, again, you think you've got to settle down and get a mortgage. I've proposed to Abby. I haven't thought about a wedding or anything. I just proposed. I just thought, I want to do it. I mean, I think I decided properly about a month before. I was like, I'm going to do it, and just scrambled some plans together and thought I'll make it special. And I don't know. I think I've changed myself, and I think it's because of being around you. You've helped me become a bit more free thinking, which is good, because I still am, but I'm very much a fiend for comfort, structure, which again can be good in life, depending on what it's for. But you've allowed me to be a bit more free thinking, think outside the box, try different things, and understand that I don't have to stay on one course for life, because that's what's been designed for many humans. Yeah. And thankfully me and Abby are both aligned on that. And I don't know, maybe from outsiders, it might seem like we're not progressing in the way that we should be, but I think we are. I think we're progressing for what we want. I think me and Abby are progressing massively, and actually at quite a fast rate. We're doing a lot of things that we really enjoy, and that's the biggest thing. Like, to sit back and say we enjoy every aspect of life. We're able to wake up and do things that we love to do. That's the biggest win. So yeah, no, I thank you on that part for allowing me to be more free thinking and think for myself other than listen to outsiders' points of view, because I've done that a lot. I think I valued the wrong opinions too much. And I truly do realize now that the people you have in your life are I think the people you have in your life and in your closest circle are the most important decisions you can make, because that really can dictate how your life progresses forward or regresses. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thank you on that part, because you have helped me massively there. You really
You're
have.
Very welcome, bud. This is where I confess to you that this is all part of my mastermind plan to mold you into my way of thinking. So when I come to you with my problems, you actually validate.
Yeah, thank you. Tell me I'm doing the right thing. Yes, you are. You are. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing from what I've observed with you and Abs is society tries to tell you what happiness is, how you should go through the motions of life, right? In terms of, typically speaking, most people will get into a relationship, they will settle down, they'll buy a house, they'll get married, they'll have kids. And that's not bad. I think that's just different to how we currently want to go about life. And I think the beautiful thing about the human experience is that we can carry out things as humans, right? But there is also this consciousness inside of us that knows when we are doing the wrong thing, because we can do something like, I could pick this up right now and I could throw this at the window, but then and smash the glass. But then there would be that consciousness inside of me judging me for that sort of thing. So basically, to my point is, deep down, sometimes it's not so deep down, but when you are doing the wrong thing. And I think with you and Abs, for example, the process of maybe exploring to buy a house in this area and things like that, it almost took you getting to some later stages of that process for you to realize, actually, you know what, this just is not for us, and that's not what we want to explore right now. And to your point earlier, everything has its purpose. It's not always at the time you think it will come, but there are a lot of things that, I guess, it's better late than never, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes some extreme moments for you to actually realize this is not what we should be doing, because truly this isn't aligned with what my version of happiness is.
Yeah.
And there's obviously been some other life experiences of you guys as well that have helped you realize that's not what you want to do. And that's what life's about. It's literally just a journey of doing things, sometimes learning from maybe some mistakes, or just realizing, I don't want to do that, I don't like that, let's try this. This is what I like. This is what I'm more aligned with,
Yeah, I agree. It's taken a lot to get to that point. Again, the experiences that we've been through, coming close to buying homes, conversations with people, realizations, and then suddenly you realize, actually, in your own, of conversations with each other, no, this isn't us. This isn't us. And it's good though. It's good to come to that realization together. It's weird, isn't it? Like, I'm blessed in that sense that most of the people in my life have almost accepted, my way of thinking, or our way of thinking. And I haven't had much conflict in that regard, but I do really wonder if you go on these paths and people do think, why not this way? Why that way? It's just an interesting thought. I don't care so much, or maybe I do. The fact that I'm talking about it means I do. But hey, how have you switched this podcast around? I'm supposed to be the host here, man.
I'm the spotter.
It's worked, yeah.
Well, I think when sometimes again, what we've spoken about in terms of alignment with certain speaking to the right people and that kind of stuff, you realize that as you go through life and you change in terms of what you want, your everyday life, that kind of thing, sometimes people that you were once close with, or currently close with, just aren't as aligned, and maybe they just won't understand it as much. Because I've had that previously, and as I'm sort of going through a journey of trying to ground myself and understand a lot of things to do with spirituality, sometimes people aren't necessarily aligned with that. Or when I would try and speak about my anxieties or my mental health and things like that. I remember once post breakup, I reeled off for about 10 minutes, crying, by the way, about how upset I was, how I'm feeling this way, that way. And this individual could just clearly tell that they were not invested in the conversation whatsoever, and was just like, to quote, said, "I'm really glad you're doing well in life." And I was like, have you just listened to what I've been speaking about the last 10 minutes? I've sort of gone on a...
These are not tangents, mate. This is fine, yeah.
But sometimes when you, for example, you and Abs realise that you are aligned in one way, sometimes people will not understand that because they are not aligned on a similar path to you. And that's okay too, because not everybody in your life is meant to stick around forever. They serve their purpose at the time that they do, and you can hold on to that. You can hold on to the nice memories, and there doesn't have to be any toxicity around sometimes drifting apart from certain friendships or relationships, family, what have you. It's just maybe that was part of their purpose in this life. They supported you in certain ways, but now you just aren't as aligned.
Yeah. Have you had that in your life as well, or do you experience that with family, friends, people like that? Or?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was, so post breakup, start of 2023 with my ex-partner, I made the decision to stop drinking alcohol as well, just because I recognized very quickly that I needed to sit with what was allowed to break me. And I know that's a very deeply loaded statement, but obviously there were certain parts of me where I allowed myself to be shaped by a relationship, an individual, perhaps not in the way that I truly was aligned with where my values are. And I really needed to understand that, and I really needed to truly feel that in its entirety. And I realized that healing wasn't going to start when the pain stopped. It was going to start when I chose to stop running from everything. And I know a lot of people, not that this is right or wrong, but a lot of people, when they maybe split from relationships, they turn to alcohol because it's a way of suppressing thoughts and feelings, and you're able to just kind of go through life without really deeply feeling anything, and you can just kind of numb a lot of the pain. And I knew instantly that wasn't for me. And that in itself, so the breakup was the trigger for me to stop drinking alcohol, but I haven't now drank an ounce of alcohol for a year, just over a year and a half.
That's wicked.
Yeah, this is like when a vegan is really trying to tell you that they're vegan. I'm like, yes, it's only
just put it in there. Yeah,
an hour, 10 minutes. I drink alcohol. But I kind of gone off on a tangent now. Forgot what my point was. That's it. So effectively, I quickly realised that sometimes a lot of friendships were based around just drinking and binge drinking, and I would try and go out and I would try and, catch up with those individuals whilst they were drinking, and I was obviously staying sober, things like that. But then I quickly realized the environment I was surrounding myself in wasn't necessarily facilitating the kind of conversations and behaviors that I wanted to now push myself towards.
Yeah.
So then over time, it's, Luke, do you want to come out this day? And it's like, no, sorry, I can't, because it's just going to involve drinking. And whilst I can do that to some extent, it's more the conversations, the behaviors that follow on from drinking that just wasn't necessarily aligned to me anymore. And then naturally over time, I think that you just drift apart.
Also, it's just, on the drifting apart aspect, that does naturally happen in many situations, but with the drinking part as well, because it's such a accepted thing in society as a form of socializing, to take the other route, which equally should be as normal as the other route, it's almost like you're victimized, it's demonized. It's which I don't understand. Like I spent years not drinking after there was early on. I had the phase of wanting to, go out, party, all of that malarkey, and I did that, but I always felt guilty because of my dad. Being an alcoholic, you think to yourself, oh, bloody hell, if I carry on with this, does it just mean that I'm going to follow in my dad's steps? And then I took a big period where I didn't drink at all. And then out of that, I found a hybrid ground now where I can, if I want to, and I feel like I actually want to drink, I can have it. But it's not to facilitate a social conversation, an interaction. It's because I want to drink, or I look forward to it. But the difference is there. You choose not to because you realise you don't want it. So it doesn't mean, it means, in my eyes, it shouldn't mean that the conversation stops or cannot happen. It's odd, isn't it? Like the social norms, and you take these steps in different directions that 80% of the population, 60, 70%, whatever, don't do, and therefore you're the weird individual. You're the one that's why you're not like everyone else. And I think that theme probably carries a lot in a lot of the things that we're pursuing in life. I sort of like coming towards the end of this now. I wanted to just sort of reiterate that I would like to, if you're happy to, at some point come back on and talk more about, because I'm aware that we've gone quite deep into your background, your relationships, and the way it's shaped you today, which is very important, because obviously this has been, a lot of what we're talking about today has been the bulk of our conversations throughout the years to help you get through your situations, also help me as well. But I'd love to at some point explore, things like your childhood, your upbringing, and just how that's shaped the man you are today. And maybe, just deep dive into childhoods from the both of us and talk about, how that shaped us. I think that'd be a very good conversation to have. You mentioned spirituality. So looking towards the future, where there's a couple of questions I wanted to ask here. You've had more of, I'd say, a bit more of a spiritual awakening in the last, probably last year. Talk to me about that in whatever way you can to maybe help some individuals understand that, because it's not a taboo subject. It's not something that's weird. It is normal, but everyone has different understandings of topics. So where has this Luke come from? One that's more in touch spiritually with yourself. Where did that sort of manifest itself from in the last year? And how do you think that serves you going forward?
Well, I think in terms of serving me going forward, it's definitely helped me be more grounded on the journey I'm in, a lot more patient, a lot more going through the ebbs and flows of life, whatever form or context that may look like. Learning to appreciate the ups and downs. I think from the spiritual aspect, where this all kicked off, was there were certain experiences that I had from a spirituality perspective, which I think just really helped enable me to connect more with my own thoughts and feelings. Going to get into all the hippie stuff now, but learning to appreciate the silence and the beauty of what Mother Nature offers us. Really understanding, and again, I think that's kind of touched on really helping me form my love for mountains and lakes as well, and just appreciating just how simple it can be in life to, when you are feeling stressed out, how often do you actually just sit and take in the world And I think most people don't or won't, because when you actually start to sit with your thoughts and feelings in silence, you will begin to realize the kind of conscious experience you are having as a human being. And I know we can tap more into this and on part of another podcast or whatever, but from a very high level perspective, I think it really helped me to just sit with my thoughts and feelings in silence, really take in the world. You'll kind of, again, get into the hippie stuff. I'm now more inclined a lot of the time when I'm feeling stressed, anxious or whatever, to just go outside when I can, take my shoes off, connect my feet to the grass, sit in silence and just observe the sounds of this world, just the birds, the winds, the trees, and just allow every thought and feeling to simply pass through. And the clued up people would be like, yeah, look, that's meditation. Congratulations. But so yes, very high level, just meditate a lot more, just really process every emotion. Don't dismiss anything, acknowledge everything, because I think that's what a lot of people do, and what I historically did as well. You suppress, you push so many things down, and without actually allowing them to pass through your body and just leave your body, it's almost difficult to welcome more positive experiences in. So yeah, spirituality, it's really helped me truly tap into, I think, what my purpose is in this world. And I guess my final statement, maybe we can tap more into this another time, or part of this podcast now, is the most baffling thing of all is within certain experiences I've had, I have felt like I've been communicated to by a form of higher power in different contexts for different reasons, to almost put a metaphorical arm around me to just reassure me that I am on the right path, I'm doing the right thing, and that everything will be okay. So I know that as long as I continue to live my life purposefully, with intent, and always doing the best I can, and trying my absolute hardest not to hurt anybody in the process, then I will have a very fulfilling life.
It's beautiful, mate. There's not really much I can add to that, because that's quite a self journey. It's a solo one. You know, I can't really, I wouldn't say that I've had many of those experiences myself yet. In that sense, being in touch with my spiritual side, although you've said you think you've seen a bit more of me being in touch with my, or what you would say is my spiritual side. I don't know if I see that as much yet.
I do.
Really?
I think what's been really, really nice is I've spoken about sort of like certain close friends that I've got, and one of my other closest friends, like, you know, I have four male figures in my life that I like really, 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 truly love. You are obviously one of those. Then my other best friend, Dan, as well. My brother, Aaron, and my dad as well. And obviously there are other male figures in my life that I really connect well with and love as well, but they are sort of like the four main influences in my life. And the beauty of mine and Dan's friendship is that he has helped enable my spiritual side of things as well. So where I've been going on this journey, and I guess obviously me and you share everything and anything, what I've seen with you over the last year and a half, and I think we've spoken about this, one of the biggest turning points of you was prep last year as well. And that helped you realize a lot of things. And I think, so yeah, over the last year and a half, I've definitely seen you just become a bit more open-minded. And like you said before, you take comfort and safety in your routine and sort of the structure of your day-to-day life, which is great because everybody needs that structure in their day-to-day life. But where you have become more open-minded, with certain things, I think it's enabled you to think a little bit more outside of the box. You know, like we spoke about with the journey you and Abs have gone through, maybe what society depicts your happiness should be. You two have thought a little bit more outside of the box and thought that's not what we want. And we're okay with exploring other options, regardless of how other people feel or think. You know, it's about how you feel. You know, that's a very long-winded way of basically me validating, saying, yes, Jake.
Yes, I have seen that.
More. Yeah.
I do agree now you've mentioned it. Maybe I'm just more open to feeling, to thought, to what is right to me. And maybe that is being in touch with my spiritual side. I don't know. Maybe that's just something I need to look into a bit more. But I guess being around you means that I've got that, you know, outlet if I want to talk about these things and figure out if I am on my own spiritual journey. So maybe we can go and ground together at some point and see where our thoughts take us.
Get our feet out, sit in the grass and just...
Yeah. Stop touching my toes. No, wicked, mate. Honestly, it does help to have these conversations. I think it's actually kind of hit me throughout this conversation. You mentioned early on about I don't want to bring it up again, but you brought something out that I don't think I'd heard you say out loud. And you probably know which part I'm talking about. I don't want to mention it in case it gets cancelled on. Well, it's more
okay.
That subject, you know. And I don't think I've ever heard you say that out loud. So that sort of hit me a bit, because absolutely fine to have these thoughts. You know, I've been open about that in very recent podcast episodes, but it's hard hearing your best friend say that, you know, and because you never want to. The idea of that situation is, doesn't even beg a thought, really, does it? But I hope where you are now in life allows you to appreciate what you've been through to get to this point and see it as building blocks, you know, real character building chapters in your life that have been hard, but they've allowed you to open up, you know, spiritually and in other ways as well. I think to allow people into your life in more of a, I suppose, I don't even know how to put it, just close and comforting way, you know, letting people into your thoughts a bit more, expressing yourself. I think the Luke I see today is, you know, someone that I think you should be proud of, especially of what you've been through. But, you know, if there was no changes in your life now going forward, I think you should be very proud of the person you are today and what you've been through to get to this point. And I think that whatever forces come into your life, people, energy, whatever you want to say, I think that it will align. You know, it will always align with you now, because you are so in touch with yourself, what you want out of life, and the person you are, which I think is really important, because we have to learn to accept ourselves. And I've been on a journey of that as well. And I truly do accept the person I am today. I know I'm an oversharer. I know I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I get anxious about things that perhaps I shouldn't. And to some people, you know, like yourself in many ways, you don't see it. You see it as an anxious thing, but worth having those anxious thoughts about. I do care a lot, and probably too much, about what people think of me. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to a point where I feel like I'm at a point where I can sort of be like, yeah, I'm happy, but I do accept myself, and I think that I think you should be very proud of yourself. Long-winded way of saying,
thank you, mate.
Be very proud of yourself, the person you are, because I'm proud of you as well, and I'm blessed to have you in my life. I think that these conversations are really important, and I'm glad that people have seen, hopefully, can get a lot out of this, and I'm sure we'll have many more. But I guess it sort of leads on to sort of almost like one final point, like, and I might ask you one more question after, but these conversations as men in particular, how much value do you see in these? Do you think we do it enough?
No, in short. And I think that's, I guess, from my perspective, I'm now lucky enough that I am surrounded by so many great men that I can have these conversations with and feel safe in doing so. But I also understand that my situation is of a minority in the sense that I know not every or most men do not have a situation, I feel, like this, where everybody has their best friends, right? But I think the beauty of our friendship and the beauty of so many other close friends that I have is that I can talk openly and honestly. And I think we're of a really damaging society where men feel like they can't talk about their feelings, but they also cannot be too masculine either, in the sense of it being shut down as toxic masculinity. And I know there are select minority of men out there that ruin it for everybody. Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now.
It's not at all. Not at all.
As a whole, I don't think we talk enough as men.
Do you think that probably the reason, as you alluded to, is because a lot of us feel uncomfortable with doing so, with the fear of being judged and the fear of being, I guess, exposed because we have said something out of line, out of term, something against the majority thought process, something where we feel like, we're just going to be exposed. We can't say that. You can't say that because we live in such a I don't think what's the term, a censored society.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's probably because it's that fear of being judged?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially. I think it's a very complex subject. And I guess where I've been on a journey of, where I've been on a journey and I have had previous friendship groups that I guess think differently to how we think differently in terms of being open and honest and just communicating about how they feel, not being afraid to cry. Where I guess I was in that transitional phase, I would still be surrounded by certain friendship groups, and you would truly care about those other people, and I would ask them, how they're doing, and really try and have a conversation with them and tap deep into, I guess, just how they are feeling. And if you kind of get a little sense, a little teaser of maybe that they're not okay, you obviously want to tap more into that, right? Because you care about these people. And I guess this helps justify the point that men don't talk enough, because there are some men out there that do, or they will not talk, because it's very taboo for a man to talk about their feelings, and potentially maybe they feel weak in doing so, and they feel like they shouldn't be able to cry. I'll give you a point. I spoke to someone today. So yesterday, Jake and I went to go see Superman, and I was having a conversation with someone else about watching Superman. And spoiler free, there is a scene where Clark Kent is talking to his dad, and he talks about his purpose, or what he thought his parents sent him there for his purpose to be. Turns out maybe his parents had a different agenda, and it was a very emotional scene where his dad was actually saying, your actions dictate who you are as a person, all of this sort of stuff. And I spoke to this other individual and basically said, I was in the cinema and I was crying at that scene because it really hit home and it was really emotional. And this person said, I'm glad you said that, because I had a lump in my throat and I was getting teary, but I felt like I couldn't do it with the friendship group that I was watching it with, because I felt like I'd be judged.
So sad.
Yeah.
That is really sad. I just to jump in, I'm grateful that I know a lot to my dad. Really, he did, as much as he had his troubles, he always brought me up to show emotion, and I don't know why it took me until 2019, 2020 to truly go through those counselling sessions I had at the time to get past those barriers. And ever since then, with, again, that quote, a quote from Superman, that little snippet. I was in the cinema yesterday. My eyes were balling up. Obviously, I had my partner next to me. I had Abby there. Like, no shame whatsoever, which is great. And you should feel like that.
That's beautiful, mate. That is amazing.
But that's really sad to hear. Again, that fear of being judged. Who am I around? God, can I show these signs of what they think is weakness? Or you're a man. Can't be doing that. It's really, we're in 2025. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic that we can't just be our true selves. And it's all based down to gender. I just don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But again, societal norms and years of having these themes drilled into us. I think what you said at the start there, we're in this generation that's really torn between two sides. It really is.
Yeah. And there is no weakness in crying or showing emotion as a man. Innately, our gender will always feel like we have to crack on regardless of how we feel. And to some extent, I do agree with that. But at the same time as well, you are allowed to feel upset. You are allowed to cry. And sometimes you are just allowed to feel these moments where you might not have it all together, but you know that you can speak to your partner about it. You can cry. You can have these like intimate moments, I guess. And then you pick yourself up and you crack on anyway.
Yep.
There is no shame in crying. There is no shame in feeling weak.
I completely agree. I do. But it takes, as we've seen, I think it takes a lot of individuals' time to get to that point of acceptance. And hopefully one day we'll get to a society where it is just accepted from day one for an individual. So, like with this podcast and these conversations, that's the mission, Again, this isn't a podcast just for men, but I think it helps having these conversations early on to really show that we implore people to do the same. Talk, open up with your friends, open up with your family, people you feel, like Luke said and made a very good point early on, people you feel comfortable doing so with, not just everyone, people that you value, people that will reciprocate and accept the way you're feeling, validate your feelings, allow you to be open and express yourself. So yeah, Luke, honestly, I really appreciate you jumping on, mate. It's been a blessing, obviously, knowing you these past, it's been 4 years now, isn't it? About.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing, and I know regardless of wherever you're going to be based on this planet, and where me and Abby are down in our little cottage in Dorset one day, we will be the best of friends, and this relationship will just carry on to blossom with every other year that goes on. So thank you for being in my life, mate. And to try and not get emotional, long may it continue. And
absolutely, mate. I'm very lucky that even after this podcast ends, I know that I'm fortunate in the sense that me and you chat on a day-to-day basis anyway, and nothing is off the cards. We can be silly together. We can have really deep emotional chats. So people may look at this podcast as therapy, which I do as well, but I'm incredibly blessed that I also get you outside of this podcast. So just a big thank you from me as well, mate, because being a big anchor, and as long as the mic's picked that up properly, people won't misconstrue that for something else that rhymes with anchor.
Thanks, should be cancelled now. Yeah.
No, I truly mean it, mate. Since we've met, you've just been a big influence in my life. You've kept me grounded. You've supported me in so many ways that I can't even properly articulate over this podcast. So yeah, the world is a better place with a spotter in it. So thank you
very much. What a way to finish. We will have many more conversations, I'm sure, in the future. Luke Manley, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me, mate.
Thanks, mate.